Alright, so for today's toy haul, I'm actually recording this like back to back with the other one. So today I'm going to be opening up two more Eternal figures. One of them is the last figure piece to build Gilgamesh, which I will also be building Gilgamesh. So I will be reviewing Thena, I'll be reviewing Makkari. I'm also going to be reviewing Jocasta as well too from the Joe Fix-It line. So yeah, let's get started. So I picked up Jocasta from Ross for 10 bucks. I don't believe I ever saw her line at Target or Walmart, so this is pretty cool that I was able to pick one of these up. I didn't notice it when I initially bought her figure, but I am noticing that there is a huge like scratch mark on her left pectoral, so that's something that has me a little worried. So she comes with the torso to Joe Fix-It. She only comes with two hands as accessories, so that's a little disappointing, but they have a very interesting pose, so that's cool at least. A lot of head articulation, that's cool. A little bit of a head swivel up and down too. Arms do go up to maybe above 90. Nice. Left one doesn't feel as good because it looks like it's slightly scraping against the chest, so that's a negative. Because like of her singular color, you can kind of see the places where she was probably cut off from the plastic mold runners, so that's a downside. The elbows are definitely on the rougher side just because, at least with the one on the left, there was some extra plastic and it's kind of like not really allowing for a smooth move around. So I'm gonna try to peel some off. It also just looks like the shoulder is snapping on it, so that's not the best, but it's okay. The left hand's, I guess, doing the same thing too. Good hip movement, good knee bend and stuff. Definitely feels plasticky too. Yeah, definitely rough on the moving of the plastics. I gotta be careful with this left foot because I'm moving it a little bit, but I can kind of tell the plastic feels really soft, which isn't a good thing, mostly just because see, her leg bracelet thing came off, but it feels like you really are able to bend the joints really easily. And like with some of the newer Marvel Legends, it seems like they put more of an emphasis on like firmer plastic. There's a little bit of an ankle movement. I like the details on the figure. The more I look at her left foot, it feels like the leg could break off at any moment, and it's also, the plastic is warping around her knee, above her knee right now, I think, as I play with this. I actually don't know what to do with these hands. Like, I'm not familiar enough with this character. I only know her a little bit from like some of the Iron Man comics I read from the 90s. I'll keep the fists on. So I like the figure design a lot. Definitely for 10 bucks, I think it's a really cool design to have picked up. And I probably would pick it up again if this would ever break on me. Hopefully this figure does get like an updated mold, just because again, the plastic on this figure has a lot of problems I'm noticing. But yeah, enjoy it a lot, it's good. So for my second figure I'm going to be opening up, I am going to be opening up Thena from the Eternals line. She, I believe, was a Target exclusive. The one I never saw often enough was Ajax, but it's because she was a Walmart exclusive, so I never got a chance to pick up that figure. Yeah, I used to see the Thena figure quite a bit at the Target. And if you were to compare her to the rest of the Eternals line, her figure definitely did look like it came with the most. And it definitely had the most detail. Like, she has 4 different types of weapons and 2 different sets of hands. And the only downside was that she is not built a figure. Her staff is very reminiscent of Khonshu's staff that you see in the Moon Knight series, so that's interesting. She comes with, well, 3 swords technically. It's like a short blade, like kind of similar to Kratos's. This weird looking long sword that looks like something, I don't know, when I first saw it, I thought it looked more like an elf blade from Lord of the Rings. And then we also have a katana type of sword. She also does come with 2 fists. These are great. These are a lot nicer than the ones that we get in the Eternal. Mostly just because her hands actually have like specific details on it, which I'm pretty certain the other figures don't have. So detail-wise, the figure's head sculpt definitely does look like Angelina Jolie, so that's a huge plus. There's a lot of details on her chest area. You can see like a lot of like words as well as like intricate designs printed on it, so that's a nice plus. That's as far as you can get, so she kind of gets a little bit less than a 90-degree bend in the shoulders. Clearly, like the shoulder is actually getting snagged somewhere in the chest area. Very armor-like, so that's cool. That's a nice trade-off in terms of the details. Good elbow bending and good arm bending too. Also, she definitely, of the Eternals, I had commented that Fastos at that point had definitely the best leg movement, but because like hers is like kind of like this free-flowing skirt, there's definitely a lot more movability. Great details on the boots. I actually like them a lot. Oh, the ankles do move, so that's great. If you look at her legs, and you can kind of see it, but there's like a huge separation in the joints, like right there. So I think it was to emphasize how tall this figure is in comparison to the other Eternals, at least in comparison to like Jocasta. She definitely does stand maybe like, or I guess a few centimeters taller. So that's interesting. Just because there's not, these are open palms, we're going to have to take them off. Start on her the other ones. I'm kind of disappointed because in the movie she does have like this eternal energy shield that's kind of showcased quite a bit. None of these weapons are those weapons, and now that I'm looking at these weapons, I was kind of hoping for like the shield effect that we would have. Yeah, I think I might need to rewatch some of these clips, but I'm not digging these weapons that come with her. Honestly, I think the reason why I felt so displeased by them was that one, they don't look like energy weapons, they look like physical weapons, so that's disappointing. Also, I really looked through the thing again. They never use the staff. The actual weapon that Thena uses is more like an axe. Yeah, I picked her up for about $6.89, so after tax it was like $7.50. For $7.50, definitely worth picking up because there's a lot of like details onto this figure, so it makes for a great additional piece. And again, also this figure, I feel like it nails the look of Angelina Jolie quite a bit. I just don't know how I'm gonna pose this figure, but it's good. And then finally, the last boxed figure I'm gonna open up, Makkari. I can already tell, and this was one of the reasons why I got off-put from this Build-A-Line set for Eternals. Her figure was 100% the ugliest one. Just because one, I think the likeliness of the character was completely just thrown out the window. Literally, on her box art, you see immediately that the character has like this like very maybe one or two singular strands of hair, like locks in her back. This figure actually has longer hair, like, and much more bountiful hair too. So pretty much any type of likeliness that they are trying to go for, it's just not existent. My guess is the reason why that may have been caused was that Hasbro does get like maybe a preliminary idea of what these figures are gonna look like. That prototype though can literally get changed by the studios at any point. I was actually hoping to see if I could find like a custom head of the figure of the actual actress online, but I mean, these figures did so poorly that no one really wanted to talk about them after they were done, so any chance of getting a custom head done for this character, not gonna happen. The last arm of Gilgamesh, and then she also gets one set of arm, and then she also gets a hand of Gilgamesh. I just realized one of the I think it was Kinger's set, there was an instance where I was confused as to why they included an odd number of hands, and I just realized that it was most likely Gilgamesh's other hand. I guess I didn't realize it, mostly just because I thought the skin textures of both hands looked pretty damn similar. Don't follow me too much for that. Good ankle bending, no ankle swiveling though, unfortunately. Well, actually I take it back, there is a bit of ankle swiveling on the left foot. Does the right foot have it? Oh, there is some, nice. Good knee bending. Her figure is kind of similar to Jocasta, where her knee, I feel like it can break it really easily. Definitely not as bad as hers, but it's noticeable. She also has some pretty good leg articulation as well too, because of how her figure was designed, so that's a huge plus. Mine, on her inner leg, you can actually see the Hasbro's copyright mark or something, or some numbers on it, so that's a awkward place to put it. And then there's also a bit of mispaint there as well. Arm-wise, really good articulation. Really good articulation with there. And there doesn't seem to be any type of like plastic scraping, so it seems to be a good fit. Oh, maybe a little bit. I can tell like on the left hand that there is, when you overextend it, you can kind of see it a bit. Good elbow movement. An interesting hand that comes with her on the kit, on the figure. It's like this thing. It looks, I don't know if that's supposed to mean anything. Now I'm trying to remember in the movie, but it seems fun. So that's cool. Like if you were to ignore her head, I would say the base model for the figure for $8, I would definitely say it's worth it. You can definitely, I think you have a lot of customization options for this figure. Again, you just have to ignore the head and just how blatantly bad it is. Also, I just want to add too, she does have like a lot of good details on her chest. Like kind of similar to Athena, where that's really well printed on and detailed. The only problems I think I see are really just some painting kind of fading away, or some painting not aligning correctly. So silver and reds kind of blend in at certain points, but that's fine though. It's acceptable enough. Good figure for the price. I think again, definitely not worth the store retail price of like $26. So if you were able to get this on clearance, it was definitely a good buy. I think Athena, I have been down to probably pay maybe $12 for her, but I'm glad I got her for $7.50. Yeah, that's about it. So let's get to building Gilgamesh now. Here, so left leg, left arm, right arm, and his hands, I'm gonna worry about that on, well, I'll only do it for the right hand and then his head. So I was kind of like trying this a little bit earlier, but if you were to try to squeeze on the parts onto the figure, it definitely won't budge. Like, you can only get halfway through. So I'm gonna have to run these figures through some hot water. I will be back. Actually, you know what? I'll let you guys tag along. So the key to getting to changing some of the lens if they're like really hard to get off is running it through hot water. So I'm gonna let this run for a bit. I'm gonna get it to a nice hot tap, and then I'm gonna dip the figure into the hot water to make the plastic be more bendable for the time being. All right, gotta let that go for a second. I'm gonna get a towel. It's definitely getting warmer, but I'm gonna let it run for a little bit more. Actually, I should not put the figures in here. I'm gonna dip the figures first and foremost into the hot water, because I remember seeing online on Reddit where if you let your figure get hit by hot water without kind of like slowly submerging it, you might ruin the plastic. Yeah, we'll just do it really, really slowly. All right, so this is the culmination of 3 months to build, just because I haven't had time to really build all these figures together. But yeah, I'll be doing this today, putting them together. All right, so let's, I guess I'll just dip some of this feet in and dip this leg in first. Just do it for a few seconds, that's all you really need to do. All right, that should be hopefully enough. This is his left foot. Come on. Yeah, he got it in. Also, I forgot to mention you should probably dry it too so it doesn't mold. Whoops. I don't think there's a high chance of it molding, but I mean, still, you're essentially putting moisture into these figures lightly, so might as well dry it off as best as you can. I'm so strong. Definitely does help quite a bit using the hot water technique. And then this is like such an old technique too, so that's the cool thing. All right, that's one leg down. Let's dump this leg too. Again, we're just really using the heat to get it on. Man, it feels like I'm doing hot pot right now, which I might be getting that sometime soon. There it goes, it went in. Last one. All right, got the hand in. Don't mind my dog, he's just probably barking at someone dropping off mail. Actually, that is the postman. This is what I have of the figure so far, and then lastly is the head. So I'm gonna slightly submerge this, just for the plastic to loosen a little. So I have not only built Gilgamesh, and how is he in comparison to size? Well, in terms of size, he definitely feels a little bit bigger than most of the Marvel Legends I open up, so that's cool. I definitely like the heft and feel of him. He definitely feels like a cool, imposing figure. I mean, he does get a decent amount of shoulder articulation, so it goes up that far. Good elbow bending, good hand. Well, actually, usually the hands bend like this, but his has been more like ignore the hand movement, but that's what the joints are doing on these models. So that's interesting. At least that's what it is for the left hand. Head sculpt wise, I think they nailed it with the actor that played Gilgamesh. And in terms of leg movement, he definitely has some pretty good leg movement, definitely comparable to both Thena and Makkari. I definitely like this figure. Is it worth it though, as a Build-A-Figure though? I'd probably say no. This figure should have never been a Build-A-Figure, just because I think until I spent about 21. So I still spent about maybe a little bit less than $60 to just complete this one figure. So I would probably compare this figure to be more in the $30 to $40 range. I definitely don't think he should have been a Build-A-Figure. Because that he's a Build-A-Figure part, I was noticing a lot of like imperfections in his pieces as I was opening up all these Eternal figures recently. At first glance, there's like some paint peeling or paint missing in certain areas. And on his chest or his stomach abdomen area, you can actually see a couple of scratch marks. That's a huge negative side. And even, especially with the torso, I think there was some quality control issues because the hips that came with this torso from Sprite are definitely a slightly lighter shade than the actual legs that were part of the Build-A-Figure line. I will say this too, because he was the Build-A-Figure line, like there was not any opportunities for him to get like the effects. So like, and that's something I just, in general, the Eternal figures just didn't come with. None of them came with like those energy effects that you see in the movie throughout. So it's a little disappointing. Actually, you know what? That's not true, because the only ones that really did get that was Kingo and Icarus, but they were like very, very solo ones. Overall, I think that he's a good figure. I don't think he was worth it building it for $60 though. So this is my final thoughts on these figures I opened for today. First figure I opened up was Jocasta. I think Jocasta was a very good figure for $10. I had a lot of fun opening up and like kind of examining like specific details on her. That being said though, there was definitely a lot of problems that this figure did have. So for example, the quality control of the plastic it had me worried quite a bit. I think for the price of $10, I think she's worth it. If you find a price for her for above that, I don't think it's worth it. Next up is Athena. Athena is a weird character, mostly just because I felt like there was quite a bit of fatigue opening up all these Marvel figures. And she definitely is the most, like, of the ones I've opened so far, she definitely felt like the most standout one. She comes with a lot. None of them are are accessories I want to have on her. So, but for $750 and for what she does come with, I would probably say she's worth maybe $12 at most. And yeah, good figure for that price. Next up was Makkari, which she was the last figure from the Eternals build line. She's definitely the worst. Oh, I can't say that because Druig's also just as bad. Druig's is actually a really bad figure, but for her, there's a lot of good design qualities about this figure, but the hair, as well as just the quality control on her legs, similar to Jocasta, not as bad as hers, but they just kind of irk me a bit. And then finally, I have Gilgamesh. I think he's a great figure. He definitely feels like a lot of heft, and like his design is really cool, and it feels like a good figure when you have it all combined. But the problem is that one, his Build-A-Figure line didn't really come with anything aside from like 2 additional hands, and I kind of wish like his figure alone should have come with some of the effects that we see in the movie, but again, we don't get that. So when you build it all together, it does feel really unsatisfying. For the people who did buy this at the full retail price, I do feel really bad for you guys, just because again, I personally don't think the figures were worth for that full price. I think he's a great figure. I think I probably would have classified him more in like the $30 to $40 range if need be. If they could, I don't know, like I keep going back and forth. Like I like this figure a lot. I like it a lot. It's definitely my favorite from the batch, followed by probably Jocasta and Thena, but it just didn't come with enough to really constitute that price, at least with Thor. The Thor figure that I got with the ravens and like the lightning effect, as well as the blue Thor hammer, that felt like it was worth it. And the figures are very comparable, so having that versus this, like they could have just done so much more with this Build-A-Figure. Oh my god. Alright, so anyways, enough about that rant. Good figure, good figure. Okay. I'm gonna say okay for what it is. And then I think he's a great figure, but nowhere near worth the price of $60 for what I paid for the Build-A-Line stuff. So that's about it, everyone. If you guys like this video, feel free to like it as well as subscribe to my channel. It definitely goes a long way and makes me feel good knowing people are watching my content. Feel free to tell me which of these 4 figures you guys like the most. And as always, I will see you guys for the next one. Bye!